the Friday edition, Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All studio in downtown Milwaukee. Joshy DiMaggio has moved in studio, which I'm not sure how I feel about that quite yet, but we will figure that out together. Hey, Josh.
Hey, man.
Hunter Vaughn, Tiny Hands back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. Going to be a weird show today. Let's just lead with that. Okay, we're going to talk some Packers. We're going to talk a little Bobby Portis and Bucks and everything going on there. But my attention has been scattered today as a man who's been on the show before by the name of Wally Lukachinsky. I would like to describe him as a real-life cartoon character. The man is very animated. He's got a ponytail, man bun. He lost a season-long betting challenge with his co-host Corey Sparks of the Dam Sports Show on 1430 ESPN Beaver Dam, weekdays from 4 to 5 p.m. Central. He lost a season-long challenge, and due to being, and we'll ask him about this when he joins us from Tower Lanes in Beaver Dam, due to being a Sam Darnold hater, he has to knock down 4,319 pins today, which is going to take a while. He started this challenge 2.5 hours ago. He is not at 1,000 pins yet, meaning he is not even.
Well, he has surpassed in this game.
But he is still under 25% done.
Yes.
It's almost 3 hours in.
It's been, and I don't want to, it's been the most frustrating thing in the world to watch for me.
I mean, at one point, he broke out a ramp.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, essentially gives you a free ball down the middle of the lane.
Yeah, couldn't figure it out.
We watched him gutter ball
Yeah.
3 times in a row.
That thing put him in a headlock and noogied him all around Tower Lanes and Beaver Dam. It was an unbelievable. It was so bad, it felt like you have to be doing this on purpose.
He just picked up his 4th spare of the day. And again, he's on game like 12.
Yeah, game 80.
And he's got like 3 strikes and only 4 spare. It's actually impressive how bad he's been.
Yeah.
So they are streaming this live over on Daily Dodge TV, our sister station up in Beaver Dam. You can find that on YouTube. Corey Sparks, Wally Lukachinsky, Justin Wilski have done a great job putting this together and giving us free entertainment.
Everything's wonderful except the bowling. It's great production. The action. I mean, this is Titans Jags on a Thursday in September.
And it's not the Color Rush version.
No.
I mean, it is ugly, but it is. I mean, the old saying's right. Like it's like a train wreck. You can't look away.
I can't stop watching it.
So typically, to go a little inside baseball here, in the studio,
strike.
Good for Wally. We turn on Mr. Relevant so I can see what we're doing on our video stream. I didn't turn us on today. I have Wally on. I'm watching Wally bowl. Wally and Corey Sparks are going to join us in about 15 minutes from Tower Lanes in Beaver Dam to break down this horrific action. I think Joshy and I are literally just going to grill them the entire time.
Yeah, I've got.
Do I hear a maraca? What are you doing? This is why we don't bring you in the studio.
Found this whistle here. I don't want to blow it. Don't know who his mouth's been on that thing.
Can I tell you?
Kyle Wallace.
No.
Ben Brust?
Yep.
Yeah. Stay away.
Yeah, stay away. All right. So congratulations to Wally Lukachinsky. He's at 1,075 pins, which is just about 25% of the way done.
I mean, he might develop bowler's elbow or like
his back's got to be
injuries are in real play here.
Okay, we'll get back to Wally.
Good thing it's a Friday, so he can't miss. So he can't miss the work tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. Well, apparently he's got a live remote tomorrow he's got to do. But the issue is he might have to go back to Tower Lanes tomorrow.
So I did my weekly appearance yesterday with those two. And I told him, because I heard the ad as I was waiting to go on about how he was going to be live on location Saturday morning. And I'm like, Wally, you're going to have to cancel, man. You're not getting this done in time. And he was so upset with me. He's trying to call himself an American hero. Like, he's gone full on heel mode here. And I'm like, dude, don't. You got to go at this with some humility. And he did not do that.
So the thing is, we are clipping at about if he stays on pace, which that's a big if.
He's got a radio program to do.
He's not doing the show. It's from 4 to 5 p.m. There's no shot. I mean, we'll ask him. I don't think he intends to do the show because he's obviously not going to be done. Mathematically, it tells us he'll be done about 10 o'clock tonight.
That's too much bowling.
I mean, that's 12 hours straight. And that's without breaks, by the way. At some point, this guy's going to need to eat lunch. He's changing his shoes right now.
Yeah, his insoles. I've heard about them a few times.
Yeah, the Dr. Scholl's. Okay, enough on that. Let's get to Davante Adams. Let's get to the Packers offseason. Let's get to their 2024 draft class. All which has been on my mind here as we get into the Packers offseason. So we talked about it earlier in the week. I think Joshy and I are in sync on this. When it comes to the wide receiver position, which doesn't need a full overhaul, like a specific position on defense does, it doesn't need an overhaul. I don't think you need to spend a lot of draft capital on wide receiver, but it certainly needs an upgrade of sorts, which would be Davante Adams. And on Monday's show, we referenced an article written earlier in the week on ESPN.com, which lays out the trade options, the Tyreek Hills, the Deebo Samuels, the Cooper Kupps of the world. It referenced some of the free agent candidates and some of the guys that will probably be cut due to cap casualties, which includes, of course, Davante Adams. I view this offseason at the wide receiver position as Davante Adams or bust, because if you're bringing in anybody else, you're probably not looking at them as a bona fide number one or a bona fide upgrade. The pieces you have are nice, right? Jaden Reed's going to be a good player in the NFL. Still pretty confident in that claim. Dontavian Wicks has the raw talent, has the raw ability, just hasn't taken that next step. And those two guys were both top 10 in the league and dropped passes this year. Romeo Doubs is an interesting one because it seemed like Love's first year as the starting quarterback in Green Bay, Romeo Doubs kind of developed into that go-to guy for him, that security blanket of sorts. Now, this past year, dealt with some concussions, dealt with, ditching work, playing hooky, and being suspended for a game. Had some nice moments, but all in all, not his best showing in terms of the full year. None of the wide receivers had their best showing in 2024. So while you are a believer in some of the pieces they have, a Davante Adams would be a clear upgrade. So we are rolling out the Chef Ed coined BBD campaign. And Hunter Vaughn, being the brilliant mind he is, has created a logo. BBD. Adams, with the D being a 1 and a 7, 17. Pretty clever by Hunter.
Thank you.
Hunter, what are we doing with these? We popping these on T-shirts? Are we making hats? What are we doing with this logo you made?
I will try and reach out to some people, maybe see if we can't get some sort of T-shirt made of this. But this will now be up on our stream for every show, right up there on the top.
Oh,
Bring
look
back
at that.
Davante. So, BBD, Adam 17.
Did you just hit your leg?
Yeah, sure did.
And you said, how? You winced.
I did. Yeah, it didn't feel nice. I like it. It's a little reference there to the British broadcasting. What's the C there? Channel? Yeah, whole
or
channel.
corporation,
I don't
maybe?
know. One of those C's.
Oh, or company.
Huh, maybe we'll figure that out by the time Davante Adams returns to Green Bay. I love it. It's a model to live by. It's the one thing everyone, I think, to a person, man or woman, can agree on about the 2025 Green Bay Packers. Davante Adams is the miracle salve, the magic elixir. Hey, V-Light's jumping in there.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Didn't expect to see that.
He bowled back-to-back strikes.
Attaboy.
Nice.
Yeah, just figures he'd be good at it. It just... There's one thing we can all agree on, and that's Davante Adams. He seems to fit perfectly and not upset the apple cart in terms of what Brian Gutekunst ultimately wants to happen, and that's for one of his draft picks to excel and become a number one. But there's no more waiting around. Those guys aren't going to just magically develop from one offseason to the next. It's probably going to be any sort of true number one option is going to be a guy that's drafted this year or next. Mm-hmm. And that will be the future of the Green Bay Packers. The guy isn't on the roster. I think you've got nice pieces, but Davante Adams is the stopgap we desperately need. It creates so many options and helps fix all the things we talked about. What do they do on third down? Why is the passing game so inconsistent? Who can Jordan Love rely on? Because we're trying to decide all the time. We all think Jordan Love needs to play better. But how much is it Jordan's love play or the fact that he's got a bunch of guys around him?
I think that's a big part of it. He's
Yes.
got dudes, but he doesn't have a bad MFer.
No.
He doesn't have a guy defense's fear yet. Now, do you fear some of the aspects of a Jaden Reed? Sure. But if Jaden Reed's the number one thing you're throwing at us from a receiving game, our defense is probably feeling pretty good walking into Sunday.
Teams know how to stop him as well. Like, there are ways to focus your defense on that part of the offense.
We saw it.
Right, and it requires him being hero, running across the entire defense, breaking tackles, all that sort of stuff.
So the fascinating term you just used that I think you mentioned earlier in the week as well is stopgap. Right, and essentially what that means is Davante comes in for a year or two, plays that number one role, and then he hands the keys to the Mercedes to somebody else. And whether that's on the roster right now in a Jaden Reed or a Wicks, or if that's somebody you draft this year in a mid-round, or if you draft next year, or if I don't think they're in the T. Higgins contest, to be real honest with you. I don't think they're trading for T. Higgins now that he's been franchise tagged. But if you are to go for a young stud like a T. Higgins type in the next couple off seasons, maybe that's who you hand the keys off to. But the odds are you bring back a guy who can still play at a really high level for a year or two, and it allows the guys behind him to develop into that extra threat that they haven't been. To do the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity. You tried it last year. It flat out didn't work. It wasn't good enough. So you have to address it in some capacity. Now, that brings me to the 2024 draft class. A season is in the books for them. Some solid, some not so solid. Starting with the solid. Edgerrin Cooper was great, right? He outperformed expectations for the Green Bay Packers last year. Both of those safeties, and Evan Williams and Javon Bullard, really nice pieces to a room that had to be completely rebuilt, that safety position, right? Adding a Xavier McKinney in free agency, drafting Javon Bullard, drafting Evan Williams, and allowing them to make an impact in their rookie year. But there was also some not so good. Jordan Morgan didn't really play a whole lot, dealt with the injury towards the end of the season. Marshawn Lloyd was a mid-round pick, a day 2 pick. Obviously, injuries out of his control, including appendicitis. Did your appendix ever burst, Joshy?
Still in there, still ticking.
Happy for you.
Yep.
Mine hasn't either. Hunter, you? Any appendix issues
I'm
we
all
need to know
good.
about?
Surprisingly,
Good.
I'm all good, given all of the other things with the tummy troubles.
Do you ever get weird
have.
pains? Do you ever get weird pains and go, what if that's it? What if
Yes, I had that happen this week. Actually, I was laying in bed and I go, uh-oh.
Am I going to have an appendectomy here soon?
I think the good news was I just had to go number 2.
Yeah, that's usually the case. Yeah,
But I did feel a pain I'd never felt before. I was it might be game over for me. Yeah.
I had neurovirus a few weeks back. Thought that was it. There was a moment where I was like, "This is it. I'm going."
Joshy
right now.
was down in the dumps last week.
Yeah, caught a case of the flu. It was not good.
When you say the flu, were you puking?
No, it was a respiratory flu.
Okay.
We mix up what flus actually really are.
Yes.
They're most often, but people think the one that ends up in vomiting is more frequently associated with the flu.
Okay. Joseph chiming in on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat. The British Broadcasting Corporation headquartered at Broadcasting House in London. It was established in 1992. There you go. The corporation. Did we say that?
I think it was
think
one
we
of
threw
the
it out
options.
there. Yeah.
I think Hunter did.
Okay, good stuff. So anyway, back to the 2024 draft class. Goody has been good in the mid rounds, and he's drafted some studs the last few years that have made immediate impacts. Right, this goes back to some of those wide receivers a couple of years ago, and obviously this year, Edgerrin Cooper being a huge one. But what's next? Who can take that next step and be a year 2 jump rather than a year 2 slump, which we have seen in years past? A Jordan Morgan is going to be looked at as a starter next year, likely, with Josh Myers likely going to get more money elsewhere. Can he fit in and just be the right guy? Will a Marshawn Lloyd in year 2 he didn't really have an impact in year 1. Can he come in and become the backup to a guy like Josh Jacobs? Maybe. Or do we just write this one off as, he hit on some, others didn't go so hot? That's the part where I'm a little tied up and worried, to be real honest with you, about this 2024 draft class. I don't know that other than the guys that have already made an impact, if I have a ton of faith in anybody else.
It's hard to make any decision on Marshawn Lloyd. He basically did nothing. Did he touch the ball 1 or 2 times in the actual regular season? I still have high hopes for him. I mean, he basically had a redshirt year here, which Josh Jacobs provided the unusual scenario where he basically played every snap that was humanly available to him.
Right.
I'm still high on Jordan Morgan. I thought at times he looked like he was playing the part. He was technically playing out of position. I think he's just a starter next year, and that's just sort of what ends up happening. I don't know how they figure it out, but at very worst, he's also the swing tackle and an option for year 3, depending on who ends up where, who moves on from what. But it just seems to me there's a lot there. The Tyron Hopper thing to me, I think, is a miss. We're at that.
He might be a special teams guy, but much more than that.
He's drafted way higher than a special teams guy.
Correct.
So that it's hard to look at Edgerrin Cooper, who has superstar potential. Evan Williams could be in like the all pro Pro Bowl conversation, and then Keaton Oladapo seemed like he could play when he was asked to, which was that means you drafted 3 good safeties.
Yeah.
And 2 of the guys are pretty versatile. You don't have to just line them up in their spot and play them as is. So there's enough there and enough exciting things. When you start looking back at like the Travis Glover or Jacob Monk, those are what they are. For where they were drafted, those type of picks you don't really bank on.
You said it on Wednesday. Every team wants a good 6th lineman.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully one of those guys becomes that.
Maybe one of them works out. If not, I imagine they're going to be drafting more offensive linemen.
They do it every year.
I have an early take here. I
like an early take.
I think the Packers are going to end up drafting another running back higher than we expect. I think there's a good chance this is Josh Jacobs' last year in Green Bay. Mm-hmm. And with Marshawn Lloyd, you have a certain skill set, but I do think the Packers view, and many people view this as like an elite running back draft class. So I wouldn't be shocked if 2nd or 3rd round we look again at running back, just because we saw how important the running back, a good running back is that at times the offense looked inept, lost, totally ineffective. And Josh Jacobs kept them alive a lot of times and got them some wins that maybe in a year previous, those wins wouldn't have happened. I think the Packers and many of those Shanahan type of teams, we went from there's no value in running backs to some teams going, wait, I think we have advantage because no one's valuing them enough.
I mean, this year was an absolute proof in the pudding of that, right? Look at Jacobs, look at Derrick Henry, look at Saquon Barkley. All right, they have taken a break on the Wally Lukachinsky bowling bonanza. So let's go out to Tower Lanes in Beaver Dam, where an absolute disastrous showing is well underway. We are now joined by Corey Sparks and the man of the hour, the man of the day, Wally Lukachinsky, who is just an abomination to the sport of bowling. I mean, this has been, I haven't been able to do anything today but watch Wally Lukachinsky. And it has been, I mean, the dude gutter balled 4 times while using a ramp, which is designed to go down the middle of the lane. We start with you, Wally. Just give me the breakdown. How do you think this is going so far, about 3 hours in?
I tell you, we had to avoid that 1,000 pin reset. And once we hit that, now I can take a deep breath. Yeah, it's going to take a while. Maybe I'm not the best bowler. I'm pretty close. I'm very good. But I will say, just get
no, you're not very
mark.
Good. No. You're not very good. Don't lie to us.
I want to know how many times you've had 1,200 pins in a 3-hour afternoon here. That's what I'm curious about.
Well, hold on, Wally. We have to acknowledge something now. The first 3 games you played got doubled. You don't have 1,200 pins.
It's fine. Okay. We had 2 doubles, but what we're failing to ignore here, or failing to appreciate, is we got 11 straight negative spins. We have this wheel 6 positives, 6 negatives. This man can attest to it. I don't know what's going on. Everything's offhand. Everything's like light ball, slow ball. They're designed to make me miserable out here.
It's been a really interesting thing to watch. Corey Sparks, you have done a great job providing commentary and being an appreciative friend and co-host of Wally. What's your view of things right now? How do you think this is going for your co-host on the Dam Sports Show, weekdays 4 to 5 on ESPN Beaver Dam?
Appreciate the plug, Alex. Yeah, I think getting past the 1,000-pin threshold where he can't reset and go back to 0 anymore was huge. He's hard to root for, though. Like, I feel bad. He's in game 12. He's bowling with his left hand. I'm sore. My hip isn't rotating. And then he goes on this show and tells everyone that he's the best thing since sliced bread. So
I never said that.
I feel a little conflicted. I want to root for him. I want to make sure we get out of here on time. But then he says stuff like that. I'm like, maybe we'll be here till 2 a.m. What do I care?
So what was the official prediction for each of you? When did you think he would wrap this thing up? Because A, there's no shot he's getting done before the end of your radio show at 5 o'clock.
No,
not a chance. Not a chance. So to answer your question, I had whatever that sickness is going around to start the week. So I had like a fever dream, like an Aaron Rodgers darkness retreat vision. At 11:06 tonight, I'm knocking down that final pin.
11:06. You're calling your shot Babe Ruth style?
That'll take
I'm saying 7:57. I think he gets out a little sooner.
Yeah, I'm literally going straight ahead, dead center. I'm taking this like dead log, dead baseball era, and I'm going yard.
All right, Wally, you're clearly not a great self-evaluator, so I do want to talk to Corey a second here. I want to know if you're experiencing the same thing I am of just mass frustration watching him struggle. I mean, the ramp debacle was about the most frustrating thing I've ever seen in my life. Children are better at it, small children. And then it seems like at times we're going for speed more than pleasure, or speed than accuracy. How have you felt watching this display?
I think I get frustrated when he starts to talk himself up too much. I agree with the speed over accuracy and every bit of that, right? I think in general, Wally will start to, he'll be tracking. He'll be at a 75 in the 8th frame, and he'll go, I average 81. I'm not going to get out of here. And then he throws 3 gutters in a row, and we're back because averages are averages for a reason.
Yeah.
So I think before he does that, I'm not too frustrated, but he'll get on a roll. He'll be on the brink of a double or maybe even a turkey or 2 marks in a row. He opens his mouth, starts yapping, and then he comes back down to earth. I'm like, dude, lock in.
There's something up with these ramps. It ain't on me. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
You gotta be kidding me.
The problem.
I think he realizes. He realizes you are doing an unbelievable thing, right? You are bringing people together. They are rooting for you. They are rooting against you. You are becoming. I mean this as a compliment, Wally. You are becoming a mascot of sorts, right? People are looking at you and going, "Holy crap, this guy is a nut job," right? And I mean that as a compliment. But it is so infuriating listening to you acting like this is going well.
Everything's going well. You are the band playing out the Titanic sinking around you. You are just playing it to the end. Which there's some respect to in that.
Absolutely. There's that element of, I'm going to play with my boys right here. We're going to go out in style. Maybe we're going to freeze, but you know what? We're going to go out with freeze.
I do have a couple questions.
Before we jump off here, do you want to be a part of our next game spin before we do jump off?
Yes.
Yes. I do have one before we go. How would you self-evaluate in terms of, do you understand bowling? Like, are you using the boards and the arrows to kind of align yourself? Because when I watch it, it kind of looks like you're just walking up and winging it. And the ball seems to be going the same direction many, many times. And then you overcorrect and you're in the other. Like, are we using all of the things we can to get the most pins down in each game?
That's an excellent question. And if we're in that confidential cabana, the truck tree right now, I didn't know that those arrows on the lane were to help me until about 2 weeks ago in lead up to this. So I hope that helps you. Yes, I know a lot about the sport.
This is what I deal with. 9 hours a day.
Aiming, the ones down the lane, you can aim at those and help yourself too. So there's multiple ways to get this done.
I thought those were aesthetics. I'm like, those are pretty cool. I'll throw an arrow down the lane. Nice. That's no problem. They look good, don't they?
So
well painted.
I mean, it's been brutal. Corey, I give you so much credit for standing there knowing you are helpless, right? Like, you can't help him. Until eventually you are pulled in as a celebrity bowler.
Shout out Vili.
Vili, by the way. Vili made you look like a punk, Wally.
Yeah.
I'll take looking like a punk. If Vili wants to come down and drop a 300, I'll let him do that too. That ain't no problem with me.
That ain't no problem with you. All right, you've got your wheel. I've got mine. I have nothing written on mine, though, so I'm going to let you do the honors of spinning away what is as the Wally Lukachinsky bowling extravaganza continues over on Daily Dodge TV, which you can find on YouTube. He's not even 25% of the way there yet. Go ahead, Wally. What is next up?
We have
Two times.
We got a double time. We're so back. We're so back.
Wow.
Are you listening? We got these guys up here telling me it wasn't 2. We're back.
So he doubles the score.
He's
That's
going
the
to turn
first good roll we've had since like
53
10:30 this morning.
Yeah.
53
That's okay.
into
53, 106 all of a sudden.
You're
Good
just
106
saying,
for
good
me.
math. Wally, Corey, appreciate you pausing the bowling extravaganza to catch up with us. I'm sure we'll check in with you throughout the afternoon as we continue to watch Wally suffer. Wally, how's the back? You all right?
The back's fine. I hate to admit it as a 31-year-old. It's starting to feel a little tight right now. I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. We might have an IR stint coming next week, Monday.
Yeah. All right, get
All
back
milk
to it,
and problems
fellas.
work.
Appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, my God. That is a train wreck.
Yeah. I mean, I feel less confident than I did going into it. He said he was doing good.
He said he was maybe not great, but really good.
Yeah.
I mean, look.
Do you think, has he ever seen other people bowl?
I mean, he just said he didn't know the lines were there to help until 2 weeks ago.
That's trouble. That is trouble.
Here's the thing. All right. Irrational confidence is necessary in athletics, right? I mean, you talk about professional athletes. They need to be more confident in themselves than anybody could ever rationally be confident in them. I get it. Wally, in this spot, needs to be irrationally confident. He needs to be in the thought process of, I am the best bowler in the world, Pete Weber style, and I'm going to knock down the next 3,300 pins in a matter of hours. He thinks it's going to take until 11:06 p.m.
Yeah. I mean, this is as if an alien were to come to Earth and we were to tell them they needed to bowl their way out of going to jail or being put in. He's got no prayer. It is simply a game of numbers. It's just rolling the ball as many times as humanly possible to get to that number. There's no helping him.
No.
He didn't seem very receptive to the hints I was trying to give him. He thought he was doing, I'm doing good.
Wow.
And we tweak an ankle here, we're in disaster territory.
I mean, he said the hip's already tight.
Yeah.
He's got 3,300 pins to go.
Yeah. Might want to hit some stretches.
This is the most unbelievable content I've ever seen. I mean, I got to give those boys credit. This is unbelievably good.
I have to take a break from it. I'm glad they're in a break because I was getting mad. I wanted to drive all the way to Dodge County and speak some sense into them.
Well, I got good news for you, pal. I think they're getting back to it here in just a moment.
Yeah.
I think their break was the jump on with us, and now they're getting back to it here shortly. On Daily Dodge TV on YouTube, so make sure you go check that out once we're done here. A couple more things to get into. I want to get to this Bobby Portis story because it really fascinates me. And Kyle Wallace put it really well yesterday on Kyle Brust and Nortman Weekdays 2 to 5 on ESPN Wisconsin. It just seems like something always goes wrong. Right, since the Bucks have won the title in 2021, you've got Chris Middleton getting injured. You've got back-to-back years of Giannis getting injured early in the postseason. You just can't stay healthy. And now, as you get Giannis back last night, and it's seemingly on a minutes restriction, only played about 24 minutes last night for the Bucks in their win over the Los Angeles Clippers. You seem like you're gearing up, right? I think it's just a touch under 30 games remaining in the regular season, and then it's go time. And the Bucks certainly in the thick of it. Currently, I think the 4 seed or the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, right in the mix there. Trying to inch toward a top 3 seed, but we will see if that comes to fruition for them. They will now be without Bobby Portis for 25 games, who's been suspended due to a violation of the NBA's anti-drug policy. His camp blaming it on medication they thought was legal, was more Toradol. Do I have this correct, Joshy? Toradol, they thought it was, which is a common pain medication used in professional sports. But he took something else. I don't know what that's called. Tramadol. I don't know what that is. But
painkiller.
But not legal. It must have a steroid
not legal,
of sorts.
And it's not legal because I believe it has the ability to be addictive. I saw some people saying that it doesn't really make sense that drug's even on the banned list, but that's sort of beside the point because it's not particularly strong nor effective as a painkiller. It is something that I saw one tweet where it was an ER doctor saying he's reticent to even hand it out because of how ineffective it is as a drug. I have seen some people indicate that there is belief that at times that has been used as a masking agent for other drugs. So it's really hard to decipher where it is. Bobby's story obviously is took it on accident, got it from an assistant. Doesn't make sense why we're just kind of taking pills as professional athletes that are getting handed to us.
Right. The ultimate question is how?
Right.
Right? I mean,
negligence.
Negligence is the answer, right? You have to be smarter than that. You have to be
right. If I take them at face value, at very best, it's irresponsible and negligent behavior. And I think there is plenty of reason, despite them sharing what seems to be a believable story, there's plenty of reason to cast doubt on the story we're being fed.
Yeah, I mean, that happens just about any time there's a failed drug test,
yes.
right? It's spun in a way where, oh no, oopsies, it was an accident.
Yeah.
And I just don't think you can give that as much leeway and as much grace as maybe you'd like to, because you have to be more careful. You have to be more aware of what in the world you are doing. You are a multi-millionaire professional athlete who, by the way, plays a crucial role on a team who has championship aspirations. Now, the good news is he will be back towards the end of the regular season with a couple of games to play. Therefore, knock the game rust off and get ready for the postseason, right? Bobby Portis, obviously a crucial fold on this 24-25 Bucks team. But negligence is the right word. You can't let this happen. I walked into our office this morning, and we have a nice. She referred to herself as an elder woman. This is her words, not mine. Who sits at the front desk for the entire building, and she pulls me aside this morning. She goes, "Hey, come here. What's going on with our boy? How does that happen?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "How do you take the wrong pills?" And I go, "Oh, you're talking about Bobby Portis." Mm-hmm. And so she goes, "I'm an old lady, and I know better than that. How does a professional athlete not?" And I said, I wish I had an answer for you, but I really don't. Negligence is the right option. By the way, speaking of Bobby Portis and Wally Lukachinsky, did you hear his free Bobby bit?
I did.
He is bowling right next to a poster of Bobby Portis, and he just went on about a 2-minute rant about how they should free Bobby.
He needs all the help he can get. If a rallying cry of free Bobby's when he gets there, because I've seen him bowl the ball a few times now. He's at 24, and this isn't the second frame. So, yeah, one pin.
Makes me so happy.
I don't think there was any regrouping that happened. It's disappointing, and it feels like everything that happens with the Bucks is another step closer to the window being fully shut.
Yeah.
I described it this morning as the window shut, but there's a draft. Some of the weather stripping maybe has a leak of air sneaking through.
So when it comes to the Bucks winning a championship this year, you're out.
Yeah. I would love to see it. I think it's as unlikely as you could possibly imagine.
I mean, the NBA, more than other sports, but I mean, obviously this could apply to pretty much any sport, is when it comes to the NBA postseason, the playoffs, you got to be good, you got to be lucky, you got to be healthy. The Bucks certainly have not been lucky or healthy the last several years since they won the title back in 2021. They were mostly healthy in 2021, despite a few missed games for Giannis, who was an absolute superhuman returning in that postseason run to ultimately lead the Bucks to the Larry O'Brien Trophy. They haven't been healthy. They haven't been lucky. This is finally looking like a year where maybe they can be healthy when it comes to Giannis, who's going to likely manage a lot of his games played and some of the minutes.
Minutes restriction.
Yes, which he clearly was on last night, not playing most of that fourth quarter in a game where the Bucks were down entering the fourth quarter. He is primed to be ready for the playoffs. That is his number one goal, his number one focus the remainder of the season. Now, here we are post All-Star break, excuse me. So that is an interesting part for me, is if Giannis is healthy, if Damian Lillard is healthy, I think you're putting yourself in a position to at least be competitive. So I'm not ready to shut that championship window quite yet. But are we running out of time? Are we running out of runway? Certainly. Right? Brian Windhorst pointed this out earlier in the week on ESPN Radio. The NBA is not built for teams to compete for championship for as long as the Bucks have. They've been a legitimate contender now for like 8 years. And That's just not how the modern day NBA works. But when you have a superstar like Giannis Antetokounmpo playing the way he is, who has evolved and added a mid-range jumper and is still a top 5, top 3, maybe even player in the world, you give yourself a chance. Damian Lillard obviously is Damian Lillard. Uh-oh, what'd he do?
I just watched him bowl straight into the gutter and then grab his elbow. We got elbow grabs. Which I don't know if that was the classic, when the infielder lets a ball through the legs and they look at their glove, like the glove did something wrong.
Is it just a quick reset?
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, when it comes to this championship window, I still think it's open, but you are running out of time.
Yes.
And that is why this is irritating. Despite the fact he'll be back for the postseason, it's just bad timing for a team that's still trying to figure out their identity now post-trade deadline when you add a Kyle Kuzma, when you add a Kevin Porter Jr.
I have to comment. There's a man outside wearing a shirt that says "not a furry." I feel like if you have to establish you're not a furry, you're absolutely a furry.
I don't like
I don't know
Josh
if there's
being
a
in the
comic
studio.
book.
We gotta.
I don't know if there's a comic book convention going on out there, but not a furry.
So
That's a furry.
all right, I'll tell you this. I was at the bar here at the Third Street Market
Is there a
Hall.
furry?
2 of them. And then they were back the next day. So I think there must be a convention of some sort happening, unless they just hang out at the market hall now.
That we got. I've only run across furries a couple times.
Oh, there was. I was telling you yesterday. There was. Oh no, that was Ben Brust. But yeah, there was 2 right outside our studio yesterday.
Huh. Yeah, good for them.
Live
So
your
anyways,
life. I'm
Bobby
good with it,
Portis. I think there could be a little bit of a
not
silver
a furry.
lining. He's got a
Not a
25-game suspension.
You know
He'll
who's
be
a
well
furry?
rested for the
Bobby Portis.
postseason. So we got
Bobby
that
Portis
going for
isn't
the
a
team.
furry.
That's when it matters.
Josh,
This
I'm going
Bucks
to buy
team
you
will
a
be
shirt
fine.
that says
I'm
that.
not worried about them. They just got to
What
get
do you
into the
mean by fine,
postseason, get a home series in the first round. They'll be fine.
Do you think that when you say they'll be fine, like what is your expectation, Hunter? Is it Eastern Conference or bust? Is it NBA Finals or bust? When you have a player like Giannis, you should be you should have your eyes set on championship. And while this team doesn't feel like they have a consistent third piece, they got much more athletic. They got younger at the trade deadline. Kevin Porter Jr. had a nice game off the bench last night. Seems like he's going to contribute more than Marjan Beauchamp did this season, who they traded him for. Just a thought. Where's your expectations at?
I mean, I think be competitive in the Eastern Conference Finals. So don't get swept in the conference finals is really where I'm at with them, especially with the way that they've, fallen apart once they've gotten to those first and second round matchups in the last few years. So as long as they're like competitive and they make a run, then I'm just like, okay, you were in a spot to at least try and get there. It's just things didn't work out. But the way that it's been the last few years, like they gotta at least get deep into the playoffs now.
Do you think the implication of the not a furry shirt implies he's the owner of the person who may be the furry? Like in whatever relationship they got going on?
Please
the
stop.
leash holder instead of the leash wearer?
Stop.
You learn something new every day. We learned something new today. It's time now for What We Learned. The Green Bay Packers announcing some of the... Whoa!
Oh, jeez.
Hello.
You all right?
I had a hairball.
I hate this show.
Yes.
He's so proud of himself right now.
Nailed that.
Yeah, that was good. I'm not going to lie to you. It was good. All right. The Green Bay Packers announcing some of their plans for the draft coming up at the end of April. The stage will be built on the corners of Oneida, and I think that would be Lombardi Avenue, just across from the Resch Center and the Resch Expo set up there in Green Bay. So the stage will actually be on Oneida Street, and then they are going to filter people into the parking lot there, essentially in front of the Packers Pro Shop there, which. Good setup. They released the setup of the stage as well. It's a behemoth of a stage. I mean, that thing
here's
is
the
ginormous.
thing: renderings. I could stare at a rendering forever.
You're a big rendering guy?
Oh, they just look so cool. They got the special lighting going on there.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool to get a bird's eye view there. I love a good rendering. Blueprint, not as fun. Those are a little more technical. It looks awesome. It looks like it's going to be sort of just a full takeover for the draft. It's going to be a NFL draft fun zone, basically. I'm excited to be a part of all of that, and just cool to see the Packers as a piece of it. The one disappointing thing is I thought they were going to be able to utilize the steps and Lambeau Field more as a backdrop. Now I understand there was talks of removing the whole building for it only to be rebuilt after the draft, which I can understand why you'd probably back away from that plan.
Right.
It's a little extensive,
Now,
little lot.
I am curious, like the Johnsonville Tailgate Village, which is in that area. Are they getting rid of that for the draft? So
That's staying. That is all staying. So all the permanent buildings are going to be there. And it looks like they're adding little things to it. So it's just a solid reminder. A solid reminder that the draft is coming up close. It's going to be awesome. We need to start doing mock drafts on here. Maybe we do it.
Is it mock draft season?
Maybe we do like a once every week little mock draft update. I don't know if it's on this program or in the little extras in the feed.
Yeah, the Tuesday mock drafts.
Yeah.
Who's our draft expert here? Is it you?
I think I've sort of bowled my way into being the draft expert. I certainly spend the most time on it and actually watch film.
Why do you watch film?
It's fun. It gives you something to do. I mean, it's not like I spend hours on it and I evaluate. I'll see a guy, hear a name, and then go and watch 5 minutes.
Yeah. So it seems like the Packers, in terms of their first-round pick, so last year they needed to rebuild the safety position, but they didn't go safety in the first round.
Right.
But they rebuilt it both through free agency and through the draft. It seems like they need to take a similar approach this year to the cornerback position. Right, Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine are really your two only returning corners. Eric Stokes is a free agent. I wouldn't anticipate him being back, though I would not be surprised if he is back. I think I put that at a higher percentage than most would expect when we did the percentage game a couple weeks ago. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's back. I would anticipate he's probably going to get more money elsewhere as a former first-round pick. So they're going to need to rebuild that. And that's through the draft, maybe a splash in free agency, maybe not to the point of a guy I've talked about many times in the show in DJ Reed, but that's a position that's going to need to be addressed, and I'd be curious if that's a first-round pick. So do you lock in on a certain position group when you're doing your little research?
I will eventually. I mean, the Packers have, and there's all sorts of information that Justice Mosqueda from Acme Packing has put out there. Like, the Packers tend to draft the premium positions, and you can figure those out: edge, defensive line, offensive line, and cornerback does fit in there. And we've seen some different positions creep in there, but it's pretty consistent. There's teams who draft a certain way, and they draft a certain type of player. Usually in the first round, it's usually the Packers. It's always a guy who's on the younger side, and it's a guy who's extremely athletic. Those are two things that help you narrow down to what the Packers are actually going to look at. I think the Packers aren't going to do what we saw with the safety. I don't think they'll dedicate 3 picks to any position, maybe other than offensive or defensive line, just because many of those guys can play multiple positions along that. Like, I'd be surprised to see 3 cornerbacks, but 2 wouldn't surprise me.
Agreed.
And there's depth still needed, but there is no, we need to reinvent this entire room without, like, you feel pretty good about Carrington Valentine and Eric Stokes in terms of
Keyshawn Nixon, you mean?
Yes. Sorry. Yes, correct. You feel pretty good in terms of, we saw what these guys did last year when forced into action. We would like to be better. There's certainly room to be better, but it's not like, it's not Darnell Savage and fill in.
It's not to the point of safety a year ago.
It's not an emergency.
It might be the position of most need, though.
I think it is. I think that's, but I usually say it's going to be along the trenches.
Yeah.
Now,
and that's where they'll focus.
And then cornerback would probably be after that. It just depends on how the draft breaks out, and it's still so early in the process. Obviously, I've seen hundreds of mock drafts already, but the big thing for the Packers is the combine.
Yeah.
Which follows the Senior Bowl, which is also important. So, guys you heard their name because of the Senior Bowl that you might never heard before. Mike Green, the edge, who might have actually played so well he got himself above the Packers pick at 23. Those are the 2 things where you can kind of circle guys who impressed in the Senior Bowl and guys who impressed in the Combine. Pretty good chance they're going to end up being a Green Bay Packer. especially in that first round.
RAS score. Keep an eye on the RAS score as well.
Right. There is a misconception that some people think like the Packers use actually the RAS score that Math Bomb does.
I don't think they are looking at that and going, "Wow, that's who we have to pick." But
yes,
Goody likes his athletes, man.
They're using a formula similar,
yes,
of explosion plus size and comparing it against the rest of them. There's a reason many of the guys you see will have a 9+ score.
It feels like the last 2 years the Packers have almost reached to a point, right? Lucas Van Ness and Jordan Morgan are guys I felt like would have been around if they traded back into the first round, or even in Morgan's case, he might have been around in the second round.
This came out after. Lucas Van Ness, I think, probably got drafted earlier than anyone else was thinking about him. Jordan Morgan was going to go after. I believe there was 2 teams that said pretty explicitly, we think this guy's pro-ready and would make sense at the end of the first round. But in terms of, when teams evaluate drafts, they assign guys first, second, third round grades. That doesn't mean 32 guys have a first round grade.
Correct.
Once you get into that late portion of the first round, you're taking your preferred second round.
And sometimes, they only have 9, 10, 11
Correct.
guys as first round grades. Right.
Yes.
You're totally right on that. So we will see. All right, Hunter, you mentioned before the show, I've got a what we learned. And you didn't sound happy, so I'm a little bit worried about how you're going to end our week.
Well, it's sad for me as a Cowboys fan because Zach Martin has retired. Their guard, probably one of the best offensive linemen to ever play football. In his career, he had 9 Pro Bowl selections. He was only called for a holding penalty 7 times in his entire career.
That's absurd.
Yep.
That's an absurd stat.
And Jerry Jones wanted to draft Johnny Manziel instead of him.
We miss Johnny football around these parts. All right, that will do it for us today. We're back with you Monday beginning at 12:30 Central, ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison on YouTube. If you missed any of the show, which was an interesting one, you can find it Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Can you pop Joshy on the screen one more time, Hunter? I hope these people don't see this.
Why?
Not a furry, he wrote on his chalkboard. Woody Page style. Well done, Joshy. You're going to pick a fight now. Thanks a lot.
They seem like pretty docile characters.
We'll talk to you Monday. Peace.